the retort, the exclamation that a slave auction would have started with. We need some people. Matt, I need David. Let me get Daryl and Seth. All right, going up here. And Marsha, let me get Monique. Let me see Kim. Bridget. Come on up here, you guys. Okay. And where's Denise? Denise. No. Come on up here. Okay. So, we're here because this was a historic place. A thing happened that was significant. But this could have been any place in America. This could have been New Orleans, Louisiana. It could have been Charlotte, North Carolina. This could have been Charleston, South Carolina. This could have been Richmond, Virginia. This could have been Natchez, Mississippi. This could have been Mobile, Alabama. This could have been any one of those places in this big country we call the United States of America. Any place where Africans, humans, people could be bought and sold. Where humans could be bought and sold. Where humans could be bought and sold. At this time period, remember that humans are property. And I want to get deeper into that notion of property, meaning that you are simply collateral for debt for people to do business transactions. That you are simply collateral for debt for people to do business transactions. If I want to have an interaction with you based on a business transaction, we don't need to deal with money. We don't need to deal with physical currency. I can just take those two and trade them for what I need. If I've got a debt because we were out gambling last night and I simply overbet my what I had, I just come out and say, Marsha, can you just settle that for me? If I had some debts to pay that were of a financial nature bigger than I could, somebody might come in, as opposed to me, or in the process of me declaring bankruptcy, the courts would come in and seize all of my assets. Someone died and didn't leave a will. Probate has to figure out what to do with these assets. We're humans, we don't want to think about it that way, but that is all the system saw these humans as. So there's a Swahili word that's called kuji chagalia. Kuji chagalia. Say that for me, you guys. Kuji chagalia. It means self-determination. The notion to define for yourself, where you want to go, what you want to do with your life. And the fact that that was one of the things that was denied people of African descent. The desire to have dreams for your child and to do the things that you want to make that dream come true for them. To not have that. To have someone make every decision about when and where you will use the restroom. Mm-hmm. That someone can control all of those aspects of life. And that it was a system. It's not just Bubba, some racist guy who has a bad attitude. It's a system that is propped up by laws, that currency, that trade across the world is dependent upon. That it's all tied together. And so we're here in this part in Washington, Kentucky, but once again, it could be Natchez, Mississippi, it could be Mobile, Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, Charleston, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. It could be any of these places. It could be our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And a guy would come out, and first off, you would all get qualified for the auction. You get a chance to figure out and make sure that you had enough assets to be able to bid on this precious commodity. Today's value of these people, if we talk about 1850, 1860, that an average African was being sold, one with some sort of skills, or I say a manual labor, about $3,000, and a skilled person about $5,000, which is the equivalent of about $40,000 or about $60,000 in today's money. So now we're talking about an asset, and we're talking about collateral for debt. If he's $60,000 and he's $60,000 and he's $60,000, I've got $180,000 here. Maybe I need to make a down payment on a house that I want to buy. Let me just trade those. Okay? So you'd all get qualified for the auction and make sure that you had the wherewithal to actually deal with this precious commodity. If you don't have this kind of money, don't come in. you'd go to a space or a place where before the auction started, you get a chance to examine every single one of these individuals. And you'd look around, you'd check and see, you'd ask him, you'd look in his ears, you'd look in his eyes, you'd open his mouth. I know it gets, he's like bucking, right? You know, he's like, don't do that to me. You guys get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
That's your natural, that's your nature as a human being. To be like, get out my face, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you got to take all that and put it in a whole nother bag to be used in the afterlife. Because in this life, you got to deal with that stuff. And if you're a woman, that person was going to check over every part of your body, put his fingers or hands in every crevice that they wanted to, squat, bend, you name it. All is part of my, because I've got the money, because I'm qualified to be able to do this, so now I get this other opportunity. So I assume some people went to the auctions without ever wanting to buy, if you get where I'm coming from. They just wanted to look and examine. Didn't really want to buy. So you'd come to a place like this, and depending on where you were in the world, the person might be, it might just be a mound somewhere. Sometimes it was just a cross in the road where somebody said, down here I'm going to be selling. Or you could be in a place like New Orleans, Louisiana, where it was very, very extravagant. The people would be bought and sold in a place called the Rotunda, which was literally like a convention hall. And they'd be bought and sold, and the women would all have on evening gowns and the guys tuxedos. So you can go from that very bare, naked kind of thought that you may have or whatever else as one extreme. Remember, I tell you guys, there's all kinds of nuances and everything is relative to another thing where you're putting people out here almost looking like they were going out for a night on the town. And they first start off with these guys. And they say, look, I've got this guy, Daryl, right here, and I'm going to be selling him. He is a fine and prime manual laborer. This guy can pick more cotton. He can chop more tobacco. He can, whatever it is, shuck more corn than anybody you've ever seen. Seems like he's endless. His back never breaks. I've seen him work from sun up to sundown and keep going afterwards. So what do you give me for this fine black buck I have here? What's the bidding start? $3,000. The next person comes in at $3,500. The next person, $4,000. Somebody's bought. Daryl, you're gone. $4,000. You're going over here to Mr. Sean. Take your property. Now Daryl's going to be chained up, and he may just hitch him to the back of his wagon. And we may be in Natchez, Mississippi, or New Orleans, but we may be walking for 60 or 80 or 100 miles to get to the place. And he's just going to be either in the back of the wagon, or he may literally be just chained and walking the whole time. Because part of this is also to break his spirit. Because remember when I was examining him and he had a little attitude, y'all remember that? I wanted to understand what he's doing here. This is slavery. So maybe you need to walk to get your act together. All right? So next up, we go to Matt. And I say, this guy's just like Daryl. He can work all day and all night. I've seen him do everything that you can imagine. As a matter of fact, and he's docile. He's not going to give you the problems that Daryl's going to give you. He's going to listen to everything that you say. As a matter of fact, even though he works in the fields, you might be able to take him in the house if you really needed to. He might even be a good driver. Person you could take out somewhere. He drives your carriage and everything else. He's going to stand out when you're in your place formally dressed. He's going to be there in a tuxedo looking nice, but he knows the horse. He's still a man's man. You guys get where I'm coming from? Right. He can handle that horse, take care of everything else. That's the guy that you need. He's also a little bit of protection for you. Because when you go to these places, you never know who, New Orleans is a dangerous city. So part of his job is to also protect. You guys think about bodyguards and security and everything else. Africans did those same jobs, okay? So what do you give me? I'll start at $2,500 because he's not like Daryl, but I'm telling you guys could do good with him. $2,500. What do you give me, Rochelle? What do you give me?
3.
Huh?
3.
3,000, Rochelle, right here. Somebody else. Alex, what do you give me for him?
5,000.
5? God, to be more careful. Who is the man here? He's new in town. He's trying to show out. You guys get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
He wants everybody to know he just bought the plantation up the street, and he's here to show people what he's about to do. Boom, Matt, you're Alex. Go ahead on.
Who's up next?
All right, next up, man, we're going with this next brother right here. This is Dave. Now, Dave is different than the rest of them. Dave is a blacksmith. See, Dave has a skill. Dave can do something that everybody else can't do, and it's something that's central to the economy and the working of the system. He's a blacksmith, and every good plantation needs one. Because if you don't have it, you're going out paying for this job for somebody else, everything else. And this guy can do it for you. And also, because he's such a good blacksmith, when he's done with all the work for you, he can take in work from other people who need it. Right. Okay? So this guy's going to make you some money. Right? He ain't just going to use your money. This guy's going to make you some money. So where are we starting to bid at? Sean, you done bought Daryl, man. You want to buy another?
I'll start off at $3,500.
$3,500? Hey, Sus, come on, man.
5,000.
What? Wait, 5,000 right here. Wait, she's smiling for some of them. She had her smile was a little different than the normal smile right there. All right, I'm just telling you what you might have to do. All right. So we got 5,000. Somebody else? Anybody?
6.
6 right here, Rochelle. 6. We got 6. You gonna meet it? You going?
6.5.
6.5. All right. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Boom. $6,500 sold to the young lady right here. To Esther. Go ahead. And she may have you doing a lot of things tonight, brother. Just understand. All right. Seth, come over here. Now, Seth, also a skilled person. Seth is a carpenter. Seth can make things. Seth can do a lot of good work. He's a finished carpenter, so he's the guy who comes in and makes it look really, really nice. He's not the rough guy, the outside and everything else, but he's the guy who's going to make your staircase look beautiful. He's the guy who's going to make these cabinets and everything else look really, really beautiful. He's a different kind of guy. As a matter of fact, you could make even more money off him than you could off of the last guy, because he has a very special skill. You guys know in New Orleans, Louisiana, there was this one African who was enslaved, and he was enslaved to a cabinet maker. He became so good that his signature on the back of a piece of furniture fetched an even higher price for people. Okay? And what happens is he ends up doing something that Seth will probably do. Seth will probably end up buying his own freedom. And you would say, well, how does that happen? How could a person buy their own freedom? If you had a skill like Seth, you all of a sudden had a negotiating piece with your master. Now, I know a lot of you guys going, but he's a slave master. He can't negotiate anything. Slavery's not black and white, it's gray. And when a person had a skill, that means he talked differently to the master. Not mean they talked down to him, but the master respected him. Because the master can't get one of him every day. Right? It's just like when you're telling your kids about you get an education, you get a skill. But if you're a manual labor, they can pick and choose you. If somebody can do your job in 10 minutes, you aren't worth nothing. Right? It's the job that you need. So this guy is a cabinet maker. And I said this guy in New Orleans, he was such a great cabinet maker that he bought his own freedom because he negotiated with his master. They always got Sundays off because it was Catholic, right? In New Orleans. They always got Sundays off, so he made a deal with his master. He said, just allow me to work on Sundays, for myself. The master, you might say, could say, no, you're not working for yourself. Forget you. You're my property. He said, let me work for myself on Sundays, and you'll get half the profit. Now you start thinking, but I could just make you do something. But he can't, because in New Orleans, he can't make him work on a Sunday. But this guy's volunteering to work on a Sunday. So that means on Sunday, you're going to get some money that you didn't get before. You see what I'm saying? You actually going to get some. And how motivated is he going to be to work on Sunday?
Very.
This dude is going to work on Sundays. You get where I'm coming from? He's going to put in work on Sundays, right? So you come up with a price. He's going to have to pay $7,000 to pay for himself. Might take him a year to raise that much money. He raises the money, he buys his freedom. But you say, well, what, the master doesn't have it? Now he's gone. Why did the master do it? Because all freedom in the Americas is conditional. No one is ever fully free. You're always like on parole or probation. So nobody is totally free. All their free papers say on condition. So his condition would be, and this is the case of the guy in New Orleans, his condition was that for the rest of his life, his master gets 50% of whatever he earns, period. Do you see the incentive for the master to allow him to work for himself? Because there's a huge population, especially in Natchez and New Orleans and other places, of free blacks. And people are like, how did they get there? They buy their own freedom, many of them. How did they buy their own freedom? Because they've got a skill. The master sees this as, it's beneficial. This guy's going to work like crazy. And for him to live a certain lifestyle, he knows he has to give up 50% every year. Man, how much is going to come back to me? Also, as part of his conditional freedom, if there's ever a slave insurrection, he's the first line of defense. He's a part of the colored militia. He will have to fight the Africans as they come to storm the city or whatever else. Okay? And if he ever commits a crime, he's thrown back into slavery. So all of his work for that $7,500 is thrown out of because he messed up by committing a crime and put him down. Now everybody's winning. He's back to his master. The master still got the $7,500. You see what I mean? So what am I doing? I'm ensuring a compliant free Negro. I'm ensuring a compliant free Negro. He'll be free, but he's never going to break the law. He's going to defend me against any other Negroes who come against me. And lastly, he's going to make money from me for the rest of his life. The other condition of this guy was he couldn't work within 50 miles of his master to compete with him for business. So this guy is up for bid now. You guys hear the background of this dude? You see what kind of potential money you could make? Will, what do you start off on this dude?
4,000.
4,000. You ain't even in the what?
45.
40. Did I just tell you that this man
7.
can bring you to in a year? This man could buy his own freedom, bring you back 7,500. Means you already made 3,000 on him just because he worked for himself. And you got half of that. That means you actually made. He got 7,500. That means he paid you the other part as part of the deal before he could pay. So that's $15,000. For him to buy his freedom, he's got to make $15,000 because you're getting half of it just as payment to be able to do it. So you're starting off as $4,000 and $4,500. Excuse me. What?
$20,000.
You're still a slave. You can't talk. Ashley, what about you? How much? 30,000? Did she say? Did she say? Say it again. 30,000. Bruh,
She just went out of business.
do this quickly before
Her plantation just closed.
Go over there and make her some money. Now, come on, these ladies. All right. Let's start with Marsha. I want to start with Marsha right there. So Marsha, they call